Humanity had come a long way. Years of technological advancements, peaceful exploration, and diplomatic missions had opened doors to countless star systems. Earth was no longer the isolated planet it once was. Now, humans were invited to join the Galactic Council, an assembly of alien races who governed the vast reaches of space. The invitation to attend a peace summit was seen as a great honor, an opportunity to prove that humans could be trusted among the stars. The summit was to be held on the massive station called Orion's Gate, a neutral space station located at the center of the galaxy. Representatives from dozens of species would be present, each with their own unique culture, technology, and history. Some were massive beings made of energy, while others were small and insect-like. There were species that could manipulate time, and others who communicated through music. The diversity was extraordinary, and for the humans, it was a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Captain Ava Williams, the leader of the human delegation, couldn't contain her excitement. She stood at the observation deck of the Unity, the ship that had carried them across the stars to the Peace Summit. Outside, the vastness of space stretched out, filled with distant stars and planets. The crew had been preparing for this moment for months, and Ava had been tasked with ensuring that humanity's first appearance before the Galactic Council went smoothly. "We're about to make history," Ava said to her second-in-command, Lieutenant Marcus Hayes. He nodded but noticed a look of concern in her eyes. It was subtle, but he could tell she was worried. "Everything will go fine," Marcus assured her, though he, too, felt a weight on his shoulders. The human race had much to prove. As the Unity approached Orion's Gate, the massive space station loomed ahead. Its intricate design stretched across the stars, with enormous wings that seemed to reach out like a celestial bird ready to take flight. It was both beautiful and intimidating. The humans were about to enter a world where their reputation was unknown, where they were a fresh face among ancient and powerful civilizations. Upon docking, the human delegation was escorted to the central hall, where the summit was to take place. The room was filled with representatives from many alien species, each one more unique than the last. Some stood tall, their bodies covered in shimmering scales. Others floated in the air, their forms shifting with the breeze. All eyes were on the humans as they entered. Ava, Marcus, and the rest of the crew stood at the front, trying to hold their composure. They were the newcomers, and yet they felt an overwhelming sense of being outsiders. A strange silence settled over the room as the humans were introduced, and Ava could feel the weight of the stares. It was as if every alien in the room was analyzing them, trying to determine if humans were truly worthy of a place in the Galactic Council. The first speaker, an alien with 3 eyes and a body covered in silvery fur, addressed the room. His voice echoed throughout the hall as he welcomed the humans, but there was an edge to his words. He spoke of peace and cooperation, but Ava could sense something deeper, something unspoken. After the speech, the delegates took their seats, and the summit officially began. As discussions moved forward, the humans noticed an undercurrent of tension. The discussions about trade, exploration, and resource sharing were normal, but something felt off. The humans were treated with cold politeness, but there was no warmth in the gestures. No one seemed to acknowledge them fully, and Ava couldn't help but wonder why. Marcus leaned over and whispered, "Something doesn't feel right. Why is everyone so distant?" Ava didn't have an answer. She knew that the humans' reputation in the galaxy wasn't well established, but she hadn't expected this kind of treatment. The summit continued, but as the hours passed, the humans couldn't shake the feeling that they were being judged, not as equals, but as something unknown, something to be feared. It wasn't until later in the evening, when the summit moved into a more relaxed session, that they began to piece together something troubling. A holographic display lit up in the center of the room, showing a map of the galaxy. It was a detailed map, with thousands of planets marked across the stars. But something was missing. Earth, and the entire human section of the galaxy, was nowhere to be found. Ava's heart skipped a beat. Where is Earth? She asked quietly, looking to Marcus. I don't know, he replied, equally confused. Before they could ask further questions, an ancient-looking alien with glowing blue skin stepped forward. He was unlike the others, with an aura of authority and wisdom. His voice boomed across the room, and all eyes turned toward him. "I am Archon-Rix, keeper of the galactic record," he announced, his voice carrying the weight of history. "You are here because the Council has decided to allow humanity into the galaxy once more. But know this, your history is not what you believe it to be." Ava's heart sank. The truth about humanity was about to come crashing down, and nothing would be the same after tonight. The room grew eerily quiet as Archon-Rix's words hung in the air. His glowing blue skin shimmered in the light, and every eye in the room was fixed on him. The council members, many of whom had seen centuries, even millennia of history, were now focused entirely on the humans. Ava Williams stood frozen, trying to process what had just been said. "You are here because the Council has decided to allow humanity into the galaxy once more," Archon-Rix repeated, his voice calm but firm. "But do not believe for a second that this is a simple matter of diplomacy. Your race's past is far more complicated than you think." Ava exchanged confused glances with Lieutenant Marcus Hayes. Neither of them understood what the Archon meant. What past? The humans had spent years developing peaceful relations, establishing their place in the galactic community through their exploration and technological advancements. Humanity had worked hard to avoid conflict. But now, it seemed, the truth was far darker than they had ever imagined. The Archon raised his hand, and the large holographic map of the galaxy flickered again. But this time, it was different. The stars rearranged, and a new display appeared, an ancient, damaged recording from deep within the galaxy's core. The screen was filled with images of large-scale battles, ships crashing into one another, planets burning, and fleets of warships laying waste to entire systems. The humans stared in horror. These were images of destruction on an unimaginable scale. "This is the record of your people," Rix said softly as the hologram played. "These events took place millennia ago. The human race was once a force of great power in the galaxy, but it was not power built on diplomacy or knowledge. It was power built on war." The humans felt a chill run down their spines. They had never heard of such things in their history books. The idea that humanity could have been involved in such devastation was impossible to fathom. Rix continued, his voice grave. "Humans, at one point, did not seek peace. You fought in a war that spanned the entire galaxy. Your armies were feared for their cruelty, but even more so for their unpredictability. Unlike other species, humans did not fight with advanced technology alone. You fought with sheer will, with relentless strategies that defied reason. It was this chaotic approach that made you dangerous." Ava felt her knees go weak. This couldn't be true. Humanity, the peaceful explorers, the species that had worked so hard to gain the respect of the galaxy, had been warriors of destruction. Why would the galaxy hide this? Marcus asked, his voice barely a whisper. His mind was racing, trying to understand the pieces of this horrifying puzzle. How could their entire history be altered so completely? Rix paused for a moment, his eyes scanning the room. "Because the war that humans waged nearly destroyed the galaxy itself. Entire star systems were lost. You created weapons so powerful that they shattered whole worlds. Entire civilizations were wiped from the maps, their histories lost to the void. And when the war ended, your people simply vanished from the records. The Galactic Council took it upon themselves to erase your history, to ensure that no one would remember the horrors your people caused." Ava felt a lump form in her throat. The weight of those words settled heavily on her chest. Humanity's past had been erased, hidden away in the deepest corners of the galaxy. And now, here they were, on the verge of joining the very council that had condemned them. But why? What did they want from humans now? As the hologram flickered off, Archon-Rix gave them a stern look. Humans are not just newcomers to the galaxy, he said slowly. You are an anomaly. Your species was once erased because of your destructive nature. And now you stand before us, seeking a place in this galaxy. But I must warn you, the Council does not forgive easily. There are those who will never forget what you did, and there are those who would never trust you. Ava swallowed hard, struggling to process everything. So, you're saying humanity was banned from the galaxy because of something we did in the past. But that's not us anymore. We've changed. Rix's piercing eyes softened slightly, but his tone remained unwavering. The records say you've changed. The actions you've shown in recent years, your exploration, your peaceful missions, are evidence of a different humanity. But remember, the galaxy is not quick to forget. The scars of your past still linger. For a moment, the room was silent. The humans were grappling with the truth they never expected. All the diplomatic efforts, all the goodwill, suddenly felt like nothing in comparison to the weight of the history they had just uncovered. Humanity was no longer just a newcomer. They were a race with a dangerous, dark past, and they had to prove themselves worthy of a second chance. The other alien species in the room remained still, watching, waiting for the humans to respond. Ava's mind was racing, but one thing was clear. The summit wasn't just about joining the Galactic Council. It was about redemption. And the real question was, could humanity prove they were no longer the war-driven species they once were? The revelation about humanity's past sent ripples through the room, and the air seemed to thicken with uncertainty. Ava Williams couldn't shake the feeling that the very ground beneath her was shifting. The weight of what they had learned was almost too much to bear. Humanity had been erased from the records, not just for their wars, but for the damage they had caused to the entire galaxy. As the council session continued, the atmosphere was tense. The humans sat in silence, unsure of how to proceed. Their reputation had been built on peaceful exploration, but now they were faced with a truth that threatened to unravel everything they had worked for. How could they change the galaxy's perception of them when their past was so dark? Marcus Hayes, who had been quiet since the revelation, leaned over to Ava. What do we do now? How can we prove we're not what they think we are? Ava looked around the room. The other delegates, aliens from across the stars, watched them closely. It was clear that humanity was under intense scrutiny, their every move being analyzed. If they wanted to have a place in this galaxy, they would have to earn it. We need to show them we're more than just our past, Ava said, her voice steady despite the doubt swirling in her mind. We need to prove that we've changed, that we are capable of peace and cooperation. But how? The question echoed in her mind. They had already sent delegations, worked alongside other species, and even assisted in resolving disputes between neighboring systems. But it wasn't enough. They had to do something more, something undeniable. At that moment, the Archon spoke again. The Council has decided. Humanity will not be granted membership simply because of your desire to be part of this galaxy. Instead, you will be given a trial, a test of your sincerity, your capabilities, and your willingness to make amends. Ava's heart raced. A test. What kind of test could prove that humans had changed? She exchanged a glance with Marcus. Neither of them knew what to expect. The Archon continued, his voice calm but carrying an undeniable authority. We have received reports of an emerging threat in a distant system. A rogue group of pirates is attacking peaceful colonies, destroying ships, and terrorizing the inhabitants. They are a threat to the balance of peace we've worked so hard to maintain. You will be sent to this system to handle the situation. The council chamber fell silent as the words sank in. Ava and Marcus exchanged confused looks. This was it, the test. The Archon was asking them to confront a dangerous threat, and it wasn't going to be easy. But the humans knew this was their chance. If they could handle this threat and protect the peaceful colonies, perhaps the galaxy would begin to see them in a new light. How will we handle the pirates? Marcus asked, his voice steady but filled with uncertainty. We will provide you with the resources you need, the Archon replied. But the approach is up to you. You must decide how to deal with the situation. You are not to engage in violence unless absolutely necessary. We will be watching. Ava's mind raced as she processed the information. The challenge was clear. The humans needed to deal with this pirate threat, but they had to do it in a way that demonstrated their ability to lead with wisdom and diplomacy, not force. We'll handle it, Ava said, standing tall. Her voice was firm, despite the anxiety building within her. We will show you that humanity is capable of peace. With that, the meeting was adjourned, and the humans were escorted back to their ship, the Unity. The crew had been waiting anxiously, eager to hear what the outcome of the summit had been. When Ava and Marcus entered the command room, the entire crew stood, watching them closely. Ava wasted no time in relaying the details of the mission. We've been given a trial, she said. We need to deal with a pirate threat in the Phaedra system. The pirates have been attacking peaceful colonies, and it's up to us to stop them. The crew listened intently as Ava explained the situation, but there was a noticeable tension in the room. Everyone knew that this mission wasn't just about stopping pirates. It was about proving humanity's worth in the galaxy. They had to do this right. We have to show them that we can act with restraint, Ava continued. We can't just go in guns blazing. We need to figure out a way to resolve this without causing unnecessary harm. Understood, Captain, Marcus said, his tone resolute. We'll figure out a strategy. We've trained for this. The crew set to work preparing the Unity for the journey to the Phaedra system. It was a long journey, but they were ready. The stakes had never been higher. Ava knew that this mission was more than just stopping a group of pirates. It was humanity's chance to show the galaxy that they were not the war-hungry species they had once been. It was their opportunity to redeem themselves. As the ship powered up and began its journey, Ava stood in front of the window, looking out at the vast expanse of space. The stars seemed to shimmer with both possibility and uncertainty. She didn't know what awaited them in the Phaedra system, but one thing was certain. This was humanity's chance to prove that they could be a force for good in the galaxy. The test had begun. The Unity sailed through the vast emptiness of space, its engines humming steadily as it made its way toward the Phaedra system. Ava stood on the bridge, watching the stars pass by through the viewports. The silence was heavy. The crew focused, each member aware of the enormous responsibility that lay ahead. The test was now in full motion. Humanity's future in the galaxy would depend on their actions here. The thought of failure loomed over Ava, but she pushed it aside. They had no choice but to succeed. This was their chance to prove to the galaxy that humanity was no longer the reckless, war-driven species of old. Captain, we'll be entering the Phaedra system in 10 minutes, Lieutenant Marcus Hayes said, his voice steady as he worked at his console. He glanced at Ava. The pirate ships have been detected near the third planet. They're causing widespread panic. Ava nodded, prepared to make contact with the colony. I want to know exactly what's going on. Aye, Captain, Marcus replied, and the crew immediately set to work. The Unity adjusted course, heading straight toward the coordinates where the pirates had been attacking. The tension aboard the ship was palpable. Everyone knew the importance of this mission. It was not just about defeating pirates. It was about showing the galaxy that humanity was capable of something far greater, peace. As they approached the third planet in the Phaedra system, the crew began receiving distress signals from the colony. The message was clear. The pirates were ruthless, showing no mercy to the peaceful inhabitants. Buildings had been destroyed, and many had been taken hostage. The colony was in chaos. Ava felt her chest tighten. Get me the leader of the colony, she ordered, her voice calm but filled with urgency. We need to know their exact location. Minutes later, a shaky voice came through the comm system. This is Governor Lara of the Phaedra colony. We're under attack. Please, we need help. Ava spoke gently but firmly. Governor, we're here to assist you. We're sending a team down immediately. Stay safe. We'll take care of this. We're counting on you, Captain, Governor Lara replied. The pirates have taken over the central command center. We have no way to defend ourselves. Ava's heart sank. The command center was the heart of the colony. If the pirates had control of it, they could wreak even more havoc. But she wasn't about to let that happen. Lieutenant Hayes, she said, prepare a ground team. We'll go in and take back the command center, but we do this carefully. We don't want to escalate this any further. Aye, Captain, Marcus replied. We'll be ready. The Unity hovered above the planet, the landing bay opening to reveal the team of soldiers who would accompany Ava and Marcus. The atmosphere on the surface was tense, with smoke rising from the buildings in the distance. The pirates had left a trail of destruction in their wake, and the colony's citizens were desperate for help. As Ava and her team descended to the planet's surface, she couldn't help but feel the weight of the situation. This wasn't just a mission. It was the moment that would define humanity's place in the galaxy. They reached the colony's outskirts, where the damage was most severe. Ava's team moved swiftly, navigating the wreckage and carefully avoiding any pirates they might encounter. The sounds of blasters and shouting echoed in the distance as the pirates fought to maintain control over the colony. Stay alert, Ava whispered to her team. We don't know how many of them are out there. We need to move fast. They made their way toward the central command center, staying in the shadows to avoid detection. As they approached, Ava could see the entrance guarded by a handful of pirates. Their weapons were drawn, and they were clearly on high alert. Marcus gave her a quick look. What's the plan, Captain? Ava studied the situation. She knew that attacking head-on would only cause unnecessary casualties. The pirates might be dangerous, but they weren't invincible. There had to be a way to subdue them without resorting to violence. We'll outsmart them, Ava said. We'll approach from the side and take them by surprise. We don't need to kill them. We just need to neutralize the threat. The team nodded in agreement, and they moved into position. Ava and Marcus led the way, creeping quietly around the building to find an opening. They managed to slip past the guards, carefully entering the command center without being detected. Inside, the pirates were busy monitoring the colony's systems. Ava quickly assessed the situation. There were only a few pirates here, and they seemed focused on their task. It was now or never. Ava raised her hand, signaling her team to prepare for the next step. On my mark, she whispered. We'll incapacitate them, but we won't use lethal force. The team moved in swiftly. Using stun grenades and non-lethal weapons, they disarmed and incapacitated the pirates before they even had a chance to react. Within moments, the command center was under control. Governor Lara's voice came through the comm system. Captain, the pirates are retreating. We've regained control. Thank you. You saved us. Ava breathed a sigh of relief. They had done it. The pirates had been stopped without a single fatality. The mission was a success, but Ava knew this was just the beginning. They had proven that humanity could act with restraint, that they could be trusted to handle delicate situations with care. As the team made their way back to the Unity, Ava looked at her crew. They had passed the test, and now the galaxy would see them for what they truly were, a species capable of making a difference. The journey wasn't over, but humanity had taken its first step toward redemption. The Unity hovered above the surface of the Phaedra colony, now calm after the chaos of the pirates. Ava stood on the bridge, looking out at the planet below. The situation had been handled, and the pirates had been subdued without bloodshed. It was a small victory, but to Ava, it meant everything. They had passed the first test. Humanity had proven that they could act with restraint, that they could solve problems peacefully. But the journey was far from over. The road to earning the galaxy's trust would be long, and this mission was only the beginning. Captain, Marcus Hayes said, breaking her thoughts, the governor wants to speak with you. She says it's urgent. Ava nodded and motioned for him to open the channel. A few moments later, Governor Lara's face appeared on the screen. She looked relieved but also concerned. Captain Williams, Governor Lara began, I can't thank you enough for saving us. The pirates are gone, and peace has returned to our colony. But there's something you need to know. We've intercepted a communication from a distant system. It's about the pirates you just stopped. Ava's interest piqued. What do you mean? Are there more pirates? Governor Lara hesitated before responding. We don't think these pirates were acting on their own. We believe they were part of a larger network, a criminal syndicate that has been spreading across several systems. We think this was just the beginning. Ava's heart sank. The pirates they had dealt with might have been just a small part of a much bigger problem. This wasn't over. Governor, Ava said, her voice calm but serious. What can you tell us about this syndicate? What should we be prepared for? The information we've gathered suggests that the syndicate is well-funded and has the support of several rogue factions. Governor Lara replied. They've been targeting peaceful colonies, stealing resources, and disrupting trade routes. Their reach is vast, and they're highly organized. Ava turned to Marcus. Looks like we're not done yet, she said quietly. Marcus nodded, a determined look on his face. What's our next move, Captain? Ava took a deep breath. The mission had changed. The small pirate group they had dealt with was nothing compared to the criminal syndicate now on their radar. But this was what they had signed up for, to prove humanity could face challenges head-on and protect those in need. We'll need to gather more information, Ava said. We can't fight a shadow. But we can find out who's behind this syndicate and stop them before they hurt more innocent people. Governor Lara's face softened, her relief still evident. You have our full support, Captain. If you need any resources, we'll provide them. We can't let this syndicate tear apart the galaxy's peace. Ava nodded in gratitude. Thank you, Governor. We'll handle this. As the transmission ended, Ava turned to her crew. There was no time to rest. The threat was bigger than they had imagined, and it was up to them to stop it. Lieutenant Hayes, Ava said, I want all intelligence on the criminal syndicate gathered. We need to know who's funding them, who their allies are, and where they're operating. We can't afford to be caught off guard. Aye, Captain, Marcus replied, already moving to carry out the orders. The rest of the crew went into action. Ava felt the weight of the task ahead. This was no longer just about saving one colony. It was about protecting the entire galaxy. Humanity had proven they could act with restraint, but now they would have to prove they could take on a threat of this magnitude. As the crew worked, Ava stood silently, thinking about the journey ahead. They were still being watched by the galaxy, and the stakes had only risen. They had shown they were capable of compassion and wisdom, but now they would have to show they could fight for what was right, without losing their humanity. Hours passed, and the intelligence reports began to flood in. Marcus and the crew worked tirelessly to piece together the puzzle. The syndicate was vast, and their reach was wide, but there was one thing Ava knew for sure: they wouldn't back down. Not now. Not when so many innocent lives depended on them. Captain, Marcus said, walking up to her with a serious expression. We've identified their headquarters. It's in the Valtheran system, on a remote mining colony. It's heavily fortified, and it looks like they've been operating there for years. Ava's mind raced. This was it. The next phase of their mission was clear. They had to go to the Valtheran system and neutralize the syndicate's operations. But she couldn't help but feel the weight of the responsibility. Prepare the ship, Ava ordered. We leave immediately. We've come this far, and we won't stop until this syndicate is taken down. The crew nodded, and the Unity powered up, its engines humming as it prepared for the next stage of the mission. Ava stood at the helm, staring out into the vast unknown. This was more than just a fight against pirates. It was a fight for the future of humanity's place in the galaxy. And they were ready. The Unity sped through the stars, heading toward the Valtheran system. The crew had prepared for what lay ahead, but Ava could see the tension in their eyes. This wasn't just another mission. This was a direct confrontation with an enemy that had already proven how far they were willing to go. Captain Ava Williams stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the stars. She had faced challenges before, but something about this felt different. This time, humanity wasn't just fighting for survival. They were fighting for their place in the galaxy, to prove they weren't just some species to be feared or avoided, but one that could fight for peace and justice. "Captain," Marcus Hayes said, breaking her concentration, "we're entering the Valthoran system. We've got scans of the area, but we won't know the full extent of their operations until we're closer." "Understood," Ava replied. She stood up straighter. "Keep me updated on any changes. We can't afford any surprises." The crew worked with precision, their minds focused on the task at hand. The system was quiet, almost too quiet. Ava felt a knot form in her stomach. When things were this calm, it usually meant danger was lurking. As they neared the mining colony's orbit, Ava saw the faint glow of what appeared to be a large station orbiting a barren planet. The station was heavily guarded, and the ships surrounding it seemed to patrol in a way that suggested they were expecting visitors. The Syndicate had clearly fortified this place. This would not be an easy fight. "We've got eyes on their station," Marcus said, his voice tense. "There are several ships docked, but they've got heavy defenses. We might not be able to approach without raising alarms." Ava nodded, her mind racing. "We need to get in close without alerting them. Prepare the stealth systems and power down anything that might give us away. We're going to slip in quietly." The crew worked quickly, activating the Unity's stealth mode. The ship's systems hummed softly as they powered down non-essential systems. Ava had been in dangerous situations before, but the thought of sneaking into the heart of the Syndicate's base made her heart race. As the ship drew closer, the station loomed larger in front of them. The lights flickered against the blackness of space, casting an eerie glow on the metal hull. It looked abandoned from a distance, but Ava knew better. This was the Syndicate's stronghold, and they weren't going to make it easy for anyone to get close. "Almost there," Marcus said, his eyes glued to the screens in front of him. "If we stay on course, we should be able to slip past their sensors." Ava watched as the station's defenses came into full view. Heavy weapons, sensor arrays, and patrol ships moved in a synchronized pattern. This was no ordinary operation. The Syndicate was serious about its security. "Hold your breath, everyone," Ava muttered under her breath. "This is going to be tight." The Unity glided through space, its systems silent, moving as if it were part of the stars themselves. Ava could feel her heart beating in her chest, but she didn't show it. She had to stay calm. The crew needed her to be a leader, and the mission needed to succeed. "Stealth systems holding steady," Marcus reported. "We're nearly through." Just as Ava began to relax, the ship's alarms blared. A sudden shift in the station's patrols had triggered a sensor blip. Someone had noticed them. "Damn it," Ava snapped. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers. Get us out of here." The ship lurched as Marcus pushed the Unity into a sharp turn, narrowly avoiding an incoming scan pulse. The station's defenses fired up, and a few enemy ships broke away from their formations, heading toward them. "We've been spotted," Marcus shouted. "We need to fight our way out, or they'll call reinforcements." Ava's mind raced. They hadn't planned for a direct confrontation. Their goal had always been to infiltrate, not to engage in open battle. But now, they were left with no choice. "Bring us around," Ava ordered. "We'll need to disable their ships, not destroy them. We can't afford to start a war with the whole Syndicate." Marcus nodded, his hands flying over the controls. The Unity pivoted, and its weapon systems hummed to life. Ava felt a sense of calm wash over her. She had faced danger before, but this time, the stakes were higher. The crew was depending on her. "Targeting enemy ships now," Marcus said. "We'll disable their engines, but we'll need to be quick." The first enemy ship fired, but the Unity was faster. The crew was coordinated, moving in perfect harmony. Ava could feel the ship's weapons locking onto the attacking ship, sending pulses of energy that disabled the enemy's engines. Direct hit. They're disabled, Marcus said, his voice filled with relief. One down. But there was no time to relax. More ships were closing in, and the station's weapons were charging. Ava's heart pounded as she gave orders to the crew, guiding them through the chaotic battle. They had the advantage of speed and stealth, but the Syndicate was not going down without a fight. "We're not out of this yet," Ava muttered. "Brace for impact." As the battle raged on, Ava knew one thing for certain. The path to victory was never easy, and they had just entered the heart of the storm. The Unity shook as another blast from the station's defense systems hit their shields. Ava gripped the edge of her command chair, her mind racing. The battle outside the ship was intense. The enemy was relentless, and the crew was exhausted. But they had come too far to back down now. "Shields are holding, but they won't last much longer, Captain," Marcus said, his voice tense as he worked the controls. "We need to either disable the station or get out of here, or we're finished." Ava nodded. She knew he was right. Their options were slim. Either they could keep fighting and risk drawing more attention, or they could try to disable the station's main power grid and shut down its defenses. But that would be a dangerous mission, a mission that no one had ever attempted before. "We don't have time to waste," Ava said, her voice steady despite the chaos surrounding them. "If we don't do something now, we'll lose the opportunity. Get us close to the station. We'll disable the power grid and take out their defenses." The crew worked quickly, coordinating their efforts as the Unity made its way closer to the station. Enemy ships continued to harry them, but the Unity was nimble and fast, evading most of the fire. Ava could feel the tension in her chest as they got closer to their target. Approaching the main power grid, Marcus called out, "We'll need to get through their shields to access the core. It's risky, but we don't have a choice." Ava's heart pounded in her chest. She had no illusions about how dangerous this mission was. They were deep in enemy territory, surrounded by well-armed ships, and the station's defenses were still strong. One wrong move, and they could all be lost. "Ready the boarding teams," Ava ordered. "We're going in. Prepare for a full-scale assault." The crew moved quickly, preparing for the boarding mission. Ava knew that once they docked, they would have to fight their way to the station's core, facing guards and security systems that had been designed to stop anyone who tried to break in. But they had no other choice. With a sudden jolt, the Unity came to a halt just outside the station. Ava felt the pressure build as the crew activated the boarding pods. The station's shields were thick, but they had the right tools for the job. They would have to get inside, disable the power grid, and make their way to the control center. "We're in position," Marcus said, his fingers flying over the control panels. "The boarding pods are ready to launch." Ava nodded and gave the order. "Launch them." The pods shot out of the Unity and raced toward the station. The crew inside the pods braced for impact as they neared the station's outer walls. They would have to breach the defenses, fight through security, and make their way to the heart of the station where the power grid was located. The pods slammed into the station's surface with a violent thud. For a moment, everything was still. Then the hatches opened, and the crew stormed out, weapons ready. Ava was the first to step out, leading the charge as they made their way into the station's interior. The corridors were dark and cold, the sound of their boots echoing as they moved quickly, clearing each room as they went. Ava's mind raced with strategy. They had to get to the core, shut it down, and disable the station's defenses before reinforcements arrived. It was a race against time. As they moved deeper into the station, they encountered their first wave of guards. The enemy soldiers were heavily armed, but the crew of the Unity was ready. They fought fiercely, using their training and teamwork to push forward. Ava moved with precision, her every decision made with the lives of her crew in mind. After what felt like an eternity, they reached the control room. The main power grid was protected by a thick door, and Ava knew that it would take time to break through. But they couldn't afford to wait. "Get ready," Ava ordered. "We breach on my mark." The crew nodded, weapons raised, and with a final push, they tore through the door. Inside, the core was humming with energy. It was the heart of the station, and if they could disable it, they would have a chance to escape. Ava stood at the edge of the control panel, studying the complex system. She could feel the weight of the decision on her shoulders. If they made the wrong move, the station could go into overdrive, and the explosion would take them all with it. But she had no choice. "Now," Ava shouted. The crew moved quickly, disabling the core and cutting off the station's power. For a moment, everything went silent. Then the lights flickered, and the station's defenses powered down. The Unity had done it. But Ava knew that they weren't out of danger yet. They still had to escape the station, fight off the remaining enemy ships, and get out before the Syndicate could retaliate. It was a narrow window, but it was their only chance. As the crew made their way back to the Unity, the tension was palpable. The station's power was down, but the battle was far from over. Ava's heart was pounding, but she knew they had taken the first step toward victory. The odds had been stacked against them, but they had proven that humanity was not a species to be underestimated.